The night shift on Horizon's Gate always made Torian question his life choices. Most mechanics only had to deal with broken engines, unpaid bills, and oil that refused to wash off. But Torian also had to argue with a vending machine that believed it was his life coach. "You look tired," the vending unit chirped. "I'm tired," Torian muttered. "You require magnesium." "I require silence." He pressed the snack button. The machine dispensed hot tea instead. Chamomile reduces stress. "I asked for chips." Before the machine could offer emotional support again, something crashed outside in the alley behind his repair shop. Torian froze. The alley was not a friendly place. It was where broken crates went to die. It was where smugglers argued. It was where bad decisions echoed. He grabbed a metal wrench and stepped outside. Neon lights flickered across the wet pavement. Steam hissed from vents. For a moment, he saw nothing. Then he saw her. A woman lay against the wall, barely breathing. Her skin was pale like starlight. Her long ears trembled with each breath. Blonde hair spread across the dirty ground, shining even in the darkness. Her clothes were expensive, royal, even, but torn by a clean plasma burn across her side. Torian swallowed. "Well," he whispered. "This is new." He stepped closer. "Hey, if you're here to rob me, I should warn you. I own 11 credits and a sandwich that may be illegal." Her eyes opened. They glowed faint blue, like cooling plasma. She tried to lift her hand but collapsed again. That was enough. Torian dropped the joke. He lifted her carefully. She was lighter than she looked. Too light. Inside his tiny apartment, he placed her on his bed, pushing aside spare engine parts. His medical kit was terrible. Old gel. Cheap bandages. A scanner that beeped like it was judging him. Still, he worked carefully. She watched him in silence. "You're safe," he said. "Well, mostly safe. My cooking is dangerous." A small sound escaped her lips. Almost a laugh. He cleaned the wound. Wrapped it gently. Up close, he noticed she looked almost human, except for the elegant ears and the faint shimmer in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Please don't die," he replied. "I just cleaned the floor." She closed her eyes. That night, Torian slept on the floor while she took his bed. He listened to her breathing. For the first time in years, his lonely room did not feel empty. The girl who fixed machines. Morning came with the smell of burning food. Torian jumped up. She was standing near his broken heating coil, trying to warm instant porridge. "Careful," he shouted. "That thing has 2 settings, warm and explosion." She stepped back quickly. "I'm sorry." He blinked. Her voice was calm, soft, controlled. Over the next few days, she healed slowly. She avoided talking about her past. But she did something strange. She fixed things. A broken servo that Torian had fought with for a week. She touched it gently, tapped a pattern on its casing, and it worked. "I've been yelling at that for days," Torian said. "It was upset," she answered calmly. "Machines don't get upset." She tilted her head. "Everything gets upset if ignored long enough." He didn't know whether to laugh or feel uncomfortable. She read his manuals, organized his tools, repaired devices he had given up on. And every evening, they sat together in the dim workshop light. She listened when he talked. Really listened. When he made bad jokes, she tried not to smile. He called her Sarah because she refused to share her real name. It was peaceful. Too peaceful. Torian began to fear the day she would leave. The alarms. The alarms began screaming without warning. Red lights flashed across Horizon's Gate. The station intercom cheerfully announced, "Attention residents. Please remain calm while everything goes terribly wrong." Torian dropped his wrench. "Great. What now?" Ships thundered outside the station windows. Sleek silver vessels surrounded the dock like hunting birds. Not trade ships. Royal ships. His stomach dropped. He ran back to his apartment. The door slid open before he touched it. Sarah stood inside. She was dressed in his oversized mechanic shirt. But she was not calm. They're here, she whispered. Who's here? Torian asked. Before she could answer, the wall exploded inward. Smoke filled the room. Armored soldiers stepped through the debris. Tall, silent, deadly. Torian grabbed a broken wrench. Back off. I'm armed with optimism. The soldiers ignored him. They fell to one knee. All of them. Your Highness, the lead guard said. We have come to retrieve you. Torian slowly turned toward Sarah. You're kidding. She closed her eyes. My name is Princess Sarafil of Valora. Silence. You're a princess? He asked. Yes. He blinked twice. You could have mentioned that. I wanted you to see me as a person. Before he could answer, royal advisors filled the room. Medics scanned her. Guards secured the building. One advisor turned to Torian. You are now under crown protection. You will be relocated. You will not speak of this event. Torian raised a hand. Can someone explain why my wall exploded? The princess was kidnapped during an assassination attempt, the advisor said calmly. She escaped. We tracked her energy signal here. Torian stared at Sarah. She looked different now. Not because of her clothes. Because of the weight on her shoulders. Before she left, she stepped close. You kept me alive, she whispered. You ate my cooking, he replied. We're even. For the first time, she smiled sadly. Then she was gone. And Torian's world felt empty again. The royal shuttle. Being under royal protection meant sitting in a shining shuttle that probably cost more than an entire space colony. Torian sat stiffly. He was afraid to touch anything. Across the room stood Princess Sarafil. Dressed in full royal armor. Crown on her head. Back straight. But her ears flicked slightly when nervous. He noticed. She walked toward him when no one watched. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what? The exploding wall. The army. For lying. He shook his head. You needed safety. Not titles. Her eyes softened. You treated me as Sarah. Not as a symbol. An advisor interrupted. Your Highness, preparations await. She stepped away again. The distance between them felt wider than space itself. The offer. On the Valerian flagship, Torian felt very small. The walls shimmered with art made of living light. Guards watched him carefully. He was given a private chamber more beautiful than anything he had seen. But it felt empty. Then the door opened. Sarafil entered alone. No crown. No armor. Just her. They wish to send you home, she said softly. With wealth and protection. He shrugged. Wealth would be new. She stepped closer. In my world, everyone sees a ruler. A political tool. A future queen. And with me, he asked. You saw Sarah. Silence stretched. Then stay Sarah, he said. I cannot. Not alone. Her voice trembled. I need someone who speaks honestly. Someone who reminds me I am more than a crown. He blinked. Are you offering me a job? Yes. What job? Royal advisor. He nearly laughed. I fix engines. You fix more than machines, she said. You see broken things and choose to help. He thought of his tiny apartment. His broken vending machine. His lonely nights. Then he thought of her laugh. I'll stay, he said quietly. But I want one condition. She looked worried. What? A door that doesn't explode. Her laugh filled the chamber. Warm. Free. Human. A human among stars. Training was difficult. Torian struggled with etiquette. He bowed at the wrong times. He called a general sir 3 times before realizing she outranked entire fleets. But he learned. He studied diplomacy. Military strategy. Alien cultures. He asked simple questions others were too proud to ask. And slowly, something changed. The guards stopped laughing at him. Advisors listened when he spoke. Because he saw problems differently. When nobles argued for power, he asked, what helps the people? When generals demanded war, he asked, Have you tried fixing the root problem? Saraphil watched him with quiet pride. She stood taller, spoke clearer, smiled more. She was still a princess. But she was also Sarah again. The first test. Weeks later, rebels attacked a Valerian supply station. The council demanded a harsh response. Crush them, a general said. Torian studied the data. They're not rebels, he said slowly. They're starving miners cut off from trade routes. The room went silent. You defend traitors? A noble snapped. No, Torian replied calmly. I fix broken systems. Saraphil looked at him. Then what do you suggest? Send food. Repair their transport lines. Speak to them. If they still attack, then defend. It was risky. It was human. Saraphil nodded. We will try his way. The council resisted. But she held firm. And when aid ships arrived instead of warships, the miners surrendered. Peacefully. For the first time in years. The council stared at Torian differently after that. Not as a mechanic. But as a strategist. A human strategist. The truth of HFY. One evening, Saraphil stood beside him on the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly before them. You changed everything, she said softly. He shook his head. No. I just did what humans do. And what is that? He thought for a moment. We survive. We adapt. We fix things. Even when we don't understand them. She smiled. That is why humanity will never be underestimated again. He looked at her. Are you talking about me, or my species? Yes, she replied. He laughed. For the first time in his life, Torian did not feel small. He felt necessary. He had not been born royal. He had not been trained for politics. But he had something rare. Compassion. Honesty. Courage to help even when afraid. And that was enough. The first time Torian stood inside the Valerian War Council chamber, he understood something very clearly. He did not belong there. The room was massive. The ceiling arched high like the inside of a silver cathedral. Holographic stars floated in the center, showing battle lines across 3 systems. Generals in shining armor stood around the glowing table. And in the center of it all stood Princess Saraphil. Calm. Tall. Focused. A queen in the making. Torian stood at her right side, wearing formal robes that still felt like borrowed clothing. The room hummed with tension. A general stepped forward. His voice was sharp. The Karthic Dominion has crossed into Valerian space. 3 patrol fleets destroyed. Mining stations seized. This is war. The hologram shifted. Red markers spread across the map like a disease. Saraphil's ears lowered slightly. Torian noticed. He always noticed. Why now? She asked. Because they see weakness, another advisor said. After your assassination attempt, they believe Valora is unstable. Torian folded his arms. Or, he said carefully, they believe you are distracted. Several eyes turned toward him. Some curious. Some annoyed. And what is your insight, human? The general asked. Torian walked closer to the map. He zoomed in on the border systems. These attacks aren't random. They're not hitting cities. They're targeting fuel depots, supply chains, and communication relays. Yes, the general replied. Standard invasion strategy. No, Torian said softly. It's pressure. The room quieted. They don't want full war. Not yet. They want you to react with anger. They want you to overextend. Saraphil studied the map. You believe this is bait? Yes, Torian said. And if we charge in with everything, we give them what they want. Silence. Then the general crossed his arms. So what would a mechanic suggest? Torian met his eyes calmly. Fix the problem before it breaks completely. The hidden pattern. That night, Torian did not sleep. He sat in his chamber, studying every report he could access. Mining data. Trade routes. Old treaties. Smuggling patterns. He had not been trained as a military strategist. But he had fixed enough broken engines to understand systems. And war was a system. The next morning, he rushed into Sarafil's private strategy room. She was already awake, reading reports. "You found something," she said. He nodded. "The Karthik Dominion is running out of rare element fuel." She looked surprised. "That resource is tightly controlled." "Exactly," Torian replied. "Their home systems are nearly depleted. Your border stations hold the nearest supply." Her eyes widened. "So this is not about conquest. It's about survival." She stood slowly. "If we destroy them, their population collapses. If you do nothing, they keep pushing." She looked at him carefully. "What do humans do in this situation?" Torian gave a tired smile. "Humans panic. Then we argue. Then we build something crazy and hope it works." She almost laughed. Then her expression turned serious. "What are you suggesting?" "A trade." The council divided. The War Council exploded with anger. "Trade with invaders?" One noble shouted. "They murdered our patrol crews. They crossed sovereign space." Sarafil remained calm. Torian stood beside her. "They attacked supply routes," Torian said. "Not cities. Not civilians. It's controlled aggression." "That does not excuse it," a general snapped. "No," Torian agreed. "But it explains it." He activated a projection showing fuel depletion in Karthik systems. "They are desperate." The chamber went quiet. Sarafil stepped forward. "If we offer controlled fuel exchange under strict treaty, we gain leverage. We prevent full war. And we protect our borders." "And if they refuse?" the general demanded. Torian's eyes hardened slightly. "Then we prepare for the war they cannot afford." There was something different in his voice now. Not just humor. Steel. After hours of debate, Sarafil made her decision. "We will send an envoy." She turned to Torian. "You will come with me." The chamber gasped. "A human advisor at first contact?" A noble protested. Sarafil's voice became firm. "He sees what we do not." No one argued after that. The enemy's throne. The Karthik Dominion flagship was nothing like Valerian ships. It was dark metal and sharp edges. Cold. Efficient. Dangerous. Torian stood beside Sarafil as they entered the negotiation chamber. The Karthik Supreme Commander sat on a raised platform. His species was taller, armored in natural plating, eyes glowing amber. "You come to surrender?" he asked coldly. Sarafil held her posture. "We come to speak." His gaze shifted to Torian. "And you bring a human?" Torian smiled slightly. "I get that reaction a lot." The commander studied him. "Your species is new to this region." "Yes," Torian said calmly. "Which means we have fewer grudges." A faint ripple moved through the Karthik officers. Sarafil began formal diplomatic language. But the commander interrupted. "You think we do not know why you are here. You believe we are weak." Torian stepped forward. "I believe you are dying." Silence slammed into the room. Guards tensed. Sarafil stiffened slightly, but did not stop him. Torian continued. "Your fuel reserves are nearly gone. Your expansion is not conquest. It's survival." The commander's eyes burned brighter. "Careful, human." "I am," Torian replied. "Because extinction makes leaders dangerous." The room was so quiet Torian could hear his own heartbeat. "You crossed Valerian space because you had no choice," Torian said. "But full war will destroy both of you." "And what do you propose?" the commander asked slowly. "A solution." The human proposal. Torian activated a small holo device. "We offer fuel in controlled exchange." The Karthik officers murmured angrily. "In return," Torian continued, "you open technology sharing agreements and defensive alliance talks." The commander's expression darkened. "You would bind us." "No," Torian said calmly. "We would stabilize you." Sarafil stepped forward. "You attacked because you feared collapse. We understand fear. The commander's gaze returned to Torian. Why would you help an enemy? Torian answered simply. Because enemies can become partners. Graves cannot. The words hung heavy in the air. The commander leaned back. You speak boldly for a mechanic. Torian shrugged slightly. I fix broken systems. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the commander gave a slow nod. We will consider this offer. It was not victory, but it was not war. The saboteur. As Sarafil and Torian returned to their ship, something felt wrong. Too quiet. Halfway to the docking bay, explosions rocked the corridor. Blaster fire erupted. Masked attackers rushed from hidden panels. Ambush, a guard shouted. Torian pulled Sarafil behind cover. These aren't Karthik, he realized. Their armor is different. A bolt slammed into the wall inches from him. These are extremists, Sarafil said grimly. They want war. Torian's mind raced. If negotiations failed because of violence, both empires would blame each other. War would ignite instantly. Princess, we need to reach the commander now. Torian shouted. Blaster fire forced them back. Torian grabbed a fallen device from one attacker. It was a signal jammer. They're blocking communications. He looked at the corridor map. There's a maintenance tunnel below this deck. You memoized the enemy ship layout. Sarafil asked in disbelief. I grew up on space stations. Everything has maintenance tunnels. They crawled through narrow passages filled with steam and sparks. Behind them, chaos spread. When they reached the commander's chamber, guards were already aiming weapons at Valerian diplomats. This was your betrayal, a Karthik officer roared. Sarafil stepped forward. No. Torian threw the jammer device at the commander's feet. Your own radicals, he said quickly. They attacked both sides. Check the signal frequency. The commander scanned it. His eyes flared with anger. Internal code, he growled. The truth settled over the chamber. This was not Valerian aggression. It was Karthik extremists trying to force war. The commander turned to his officers. Arrest them. All of them. Within minutes, the fighting stopped. War had nearly begun. Because of fear. Because of desperation. Because of those who wanted chaos. A new alliance. Back on the Valerian flagship, the council waited nervously. When Sarafil entered with the Karthik commander beside her, shock spread across the chamber. The commander spoke first. We have rooted out internal extremists. Sarafil nodded. Our offer stands. The commander looked at Torian. The human was correct. It was the closest thing to praise Torian expected. The treaty was signed 3 days later. Fuel exchange. Technology cooperation. Border stabilization. Not perfect peace. But stability. And stability meant survival. The human impact. Weeks later, news spread across multiple systems. Valora had avoided war. The Karthik Dominion had stabilized. Trade routes reopened. For the first time, humanity was mentioned in official interstellar treaties. Torian stood once again beside Sarafil on the observation deck. Stars drifted slowly outside the glass. You prevented a war, she said softly. We prevented it, he corrected. She shook her head. You saw what we did not. You understood desperation. He leaned against the railing. Humans know desperation. She turned to him. Your species will change this region. He smiled faintly. We just try to survive. She studied him carefully. You do more than survive. You build bridges where others build walls. He didn't know how to answer that. So he said something simple. Next time, can we avoid crawling through exploding tunnels? She laughed. A real laugh. Free. Bright. The galaxy watches. In distant systems, other powers took notice. A small human advisor had stood between two empires. And war had not happened. Some leaders were impressed. Some were afraid. Because humans were unpredictable. They were emotional. They were stubborn. And apparently, They were good at fixing broken empires. Torian did not seek fame. He still preferred simple tools and direct answers. But the galaxy had started watching him. Watching humanity. Waiting to see what they would do next. And somewhere, beyond map space, darker forces were also watching. For now, there was peace. But peace was fragile. And Torian knew one truth better than anyone. If something breaks, you fix it. No matter how large. No matter how dangerous. No matter how impossible.